Hey guys, Jonelle here. Today we're going to be going over the present levels page of SEIS. So the first thing that we see on the page is strengths, preferences, and interests. This is the information that we are going to want to make sure to gather from the students, from the teachers, and also you want to include the family's input. But the information that you have in here, you're going to want to make sure to indicate how their strengths, preferences, and interests relate to academics and how they relate to the school setting. All right. This section, parent input and concerns relevant to the educational process, make sure that you are addressing the parents' concerns in here and don't just write C notes page. This is required, and you're going to want to make sure to document all of that information here, and then anything additional can be placed in the notes page. But please ensure that for every concern that the parents have, you've responded on there how the team is addressing each of those parent concerns. Okay? As we scroll down, we have the SBAC information. These scores will actually be available for students in grades 4 and up because our students do not take the SBAC in until the third grade, and then the scores will be available for fourth grade. So this information you'll be able to gather from your student information system. Right now within Fremont, we use Illuminate. So you'll be able to gather this information and input the levels indicated from the system. If the parents have opted out of assessments, then or the statewide assessments, then you want to make sure that you document that down further on the page in other assessment data right here. Okay. But if they have taken the test and you're able to find that information, you just want to make sure that you are indicating it here. If they didn't take it, if they're in grades in Glankler or grades K1, 2, and 3, you're going to make sure that you mark not applicable. All right. Same thing goes for math. And then you have down here the alternate assessment. This is the same information. If the students were not taking the SBAC, then they were also taking the California alternate assessment. You would indicate that information here. This will also be found on your student information system. Again, what we're using currently is Illuminate. All right, so if our students took the alternate assessment, you shouldn't have information for SBAC and vice versa. The English Language Development Test is currently called LPAC right here. So if your student is not an English language learner, then you want to make sure that you're marking not applicable. If they're an English learner, then you want to make sure that you're inputting the information as to how they did on their last LPAC assessment. Okay? We have students who may not be taking the LPAC and are taking an alternate assessment such as the Alt LPAC or the VCALPS. Once the student takes that and you guys have the scores and information there, then you can input that in here as well. Okay? The physical fitness testing is where you're going to gather the information from the student information system as well. The students take this in their 5th grade, 7th grade, and 9th grade year, but you want to make sure to keep the information in there from year to year until you have new assessment data. All right? The other assessment data section right here, you want to make sure that in here you're putting down any additional assessments maybe the student has taken, if there's anything from out of state or out of district as they come in on a 30-day. But you also want to put in here if a parent has opted out of any of the state testing, you can put that in here. All right. So as you see, the student, they entered information from their WJ testing as well. Okay. The hearing and vision, this section should be gathered. Usually it's on initials and the triennials, but this would be information gathered from the school nurse. So make sure that if you have an initial or a triennial, that you're also including that school nurse on the assessment plans so that the hearing and vision can be completed. And you want to keep this up until their next triennial, but it always needs to be updated at the triennial. You'll also be able to find the district's hearing and vision screening process on the SPED online handbook. Okay? As we scroll down, you're going to see the pre-academic, academic, and functional skills. You're really going to want to make sure that this information is updated yearly and that you're providing input and information from all of the students' teachers and not just the grades that they're receiving in those classes or those sections. This should give a snapshot of the students' ability levels in all of their academic areas. So make sure that it's a narrative and you have a lot of information from each of their teachers and not just a grade. Okay, it really gives everyone who reads this a snapshot of how that student's doing academically. Communication development. In this section, you want to make sure that you're describing how the student is able to communicate. And if the student does have speech and language services, that you're also connecting with them to make sure that this information is also updated in their areas. Okay? Same thing with gross and fine motor development. You're going to make sure to want to connect with the OT, PT, APE if the student has those services. And this information is just really wanting to gather how is their motor development, their gross motor, their fine motor, what are they able to do, and if there's information here from their PE class, you want to add that in there as well. The social, emotional, and behavioral section, it provides the students information about how they're doing in their social, emotional well-being, and you're going to want to indicate if there are any issues that may adversely impact the student's ability to access their education, and indicate if they do have behaviors or patterns of behaviors. And if you do see behaviors or patterns of behaviors, you want to start to create goals for the student. All right. The vocational section is where you're going to want to provide information on the student's attendance and their community access and opportunities. If you're seeing areas of weakness or needs, such as, let's say, traveling within the community, then maybe that's something that you're going to need to create a goal in. All right. Adaptive daily living skills. This is where you're going to want to indicate how well the student performs in the area of self-care and being able to function pertaining to their daily life tasks, such as feeding, bathing, dressing, occupational and navigational skills. Here in the health section, you're going to want to make sure to talk to the school nurse and the family for any updates in this area. And if there is information from the previous year, you can summarize that and keep that in there as well. If the student does have a health plan, please make sure to indicate it. If they're taking medication or anything that pertains to the student's health, just indicate it here so it gives the team an idea for anything that they may need to watch out for. All right, so this last section is important because throughout the entire present levels that we've been providing information on, anything that you're finding as an area of weakness for the student, this is where you're going to really want to make sure that you're creating goals for those areas. So if they weren't doing too well in math or in language arts or written language, we're looking at wanting to create goals. Students' needs will drive goals, and goals will drive services. Okay? Thank you. Look out for our next SEIS video.